The forest was bathed in silver light, the full moon spilling across the canopy like molten silk. Shadows danced along the trunks, twisting into shapes that whispered of secrets long hidden. Somewhere deep within, a wolf prowled, not a wolf in its natural form, but a man whose very soul throbbed with the wild pulse of the forest. He stood on a ridge overlooking the valley, the wind tugging at his dark hair, his eyes glinting with a predatory intelligence. Centuries had taught him patience, taught him to hide the fire within. Tonight, though, the moon called him, tugging at memories he had tried to bury, memories of loss, of betrayal, of a curse that bound his wolf to his heart, even when his human face smiled benignly at the world. A scream echoed from the village below, a girl running from unseen danger, his jaw clenched, instincts rising. He wanted to save her, but the rules were clear, remain unseen. Yet the wolf inside roared, impatient, restless. He exhaled slowly, forcing calm. Not yet, not here, not now. His reflection in the river glimmered, human, composed, ordinary, but beneath it the wolf waited, coiled and fierce, longing to be free, and somewhere a fated bond stirred, as delicate and dangerous as the moonlight itself. She had noticed him from the moment he arrived, a quiet figure who moved like a shadow at the edge of town. Not that he was trying to hide. It was as if the world simply didn't see him the way it saw everyone else. His house, nestled at the fringe of the forest, seemed untouched by time, and yet something about it, or him, felt alive. Emma's curiosity gnawed at her. There was a tension in the way he held himself, subtle but electric, that made her pulse quicken without reason. His eyes, dark and arresting, flicked toward her sometimes, catching her in moments she barely noticed. "Hey," she called one morning, attempting casual friendliness, though her voice wavered. He turned slowly, tilting his head as if assessing her. "Morning," he said, low and smooth, like velvet over steel. He smiled faintly, polite but distant, and walked past her, leaving a faint scent of pine and something wild she couldn't name. Her chest fluttered. Something in him didn't belong entirely to the human world. She'd noticed the small things, how his reflexes were unnervingly sharp, how he seemed to move silently even on gravel paths. Little hints, almost imperceptible, but enough to make her heart beat erratically when he was near. And yet he remained aloof, unreadable. The slow burn of curiosity, tinged with unease, began to take hold. She wanted to know him, but the wolf inside, she could sense, would not reveal itself easily. A distant howl echoed from the forest, and she shivered. Whether it was wind, animal, or something else, she didn't know, but somehow she knew it was a warning, or perhaps an invitation. Emma's morning had been ordinary, or so she thought, until the town square betrayed her. She had stopped by the bakery, balancing her coffee and notebook, lost in thoughts of deadlines and mundane worries. Then, without warning, a cart of fresh produce tipped, sending a cascade of apples rolling across the cobblestones. "Oh no," she gasped, rushing forward to help, but her foot caught on the edge of the cart. She stumbled, arms flailing, and collided with a stranger. Not just any stranger, him, careful. His voice cut through the chaos, low and commanding, and before she could apologize, he steadied her with a strong hand on her elbow. His eyes, dark, piercing, unnervingly steady, locked onto hers, and a shiver ran down her spine. I'm so sorry," she stammered, cheeks burning crimson. People nearby whispered, some snickering. The embarrassment pressed on her like a heavy weight. "You should watch where you're going," he said, a faint edge in his tone that made her recoil slightly. Then, unexpectedly, his expression softened. "But it's all right, accidents happen." Her heart wavered between relief and confusion. The mix of cold reprimand and subtle care left her reeling. Why did she feel exposed under his gaze, as if he could see past her clumsy exterior to the fragile pieces beneath? As she straightened the last fallen apple, she caught sight of his hand, strong, certain, capable. And in that fleeting moment, she felt a curious pull, a strange recognition that made her stomach twist. He turned to leave and she hesitated, wanting to speak but finding no words that weren't already jumbled with shame. "Wait," she blurted finally. He paused, eyebrow raised. "Thanks for helping." A small, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips before he walked away, leaving her standing there, breathless, humiliated, and inexplicably drawn to him. And as she watched him disappear into the shadows at the edge of town, a low, distant growl, or was it just the wind, swept through the square. Emma shivered. Something about him wasn't human, she realized, even if she didn't yet know why. The hum of the town felt distant now. Her chest burned with a mixture of embarrassment, curiosity, and a strange, unplaceable longing. She couldn't explain it, and she hated herself for noticing, but already she was ensnared by a pull she could neither resist nor fully understand. And somewhere deep in the woods, a pair of golden eyes glimmered, watching. The rumors had begun quietly, soft whispers in the marketplace, fleeting glances that lingered too long. Emma tried to ignore them, telling herself that curiosity was just idle gossip. But the way people looked at him, the new man at the edge of town, was different. There was fear, fascination, and something else she couldn't quite name. She spotted him again that evening, walking along the forest's fringe. The golden sunset caught the sharp lines of his jaw and the weight of his gaze. Something about the way he moved, smooth and deliberate, sent shivers down her spine. Ordinary men did not move like that. Ordinary men did not command silence in the wind or make animals retreat before their shadow. Emma watched as he paused, fingers brushing against a tree, and for a heartbeat the air seemed to hum. His eyes glinted, golden, almost unnerving in the fading light. She blinked, unsure if her mind was playing tricks, but no, it had been there, always there. Her heart thudded when she recalled how he had helped her stumble earlier in the square. There was strength in him, yes, but also restraint. He was contained, human in appearance but far from ordinary. The thought sent a thrilling, dangerous shiver down her spine. Emma, a voice whispered behind her, startling her. She turned to see a friend, a hint of worry in her eyes. Be careful around him, there's talk, strange things, people disappearing, wolves seen in the woods. Emma laughed nervously, brushing it off, but her stomach twisted. Could it really be true? She wanted to deny it, yet something in her gut knew better. The pull she felt toward him was unnatural, magnetic, as if fate itself had tied their paths together. Later, at the edge of her bedroom window, she watched him again. Moonlight caught the curve of his shoulders, the tilt of his head. Her pulse quickened, not with fear, but with recognition, as if part of her soul already knew him. A wolf. She didn't want to believe it, but the pieces were impossible to ignore, and somewhere in the forest, the faint glint of amber eyes mirrored hers. He was aware of her, always watching, always guarding. His secret was heavy, dangerous, but it was the only thing standing between him and the world, a world that could never understand the creature he hid beneath his human skin. Emma shivered, a mix of fear and fascination wrapping around her. She knew, in some deep, irrational way, that she was being pulled into something far larger than herself, something thrilling, terrifying, and undeniably real. Her chest still ached from the memory of the marketplace, the humiliation, and yet the pull toward him was stronger than any embarrassment. That evening, as twilight stretched its purple fingers across the town, Emma wandered near the forest's edge, drawn inexplicably to the shadows that cloaked the trees. The wind whispered through the branches, carrying a scent that made her stomach twist, a mix of pine, wildness, and something primal she couldn't name. She paused, every hair on her arms standing on end, as if the forest itself were holding its breath. "You shouldn't be here," a voice murmured from the shadows, calm, low, and impossibly close. Emma spun, heart pounding, to see him step out from the tree line. His presence was overwhelming, a force that tugged at her very soul. I was just walking," she stammered, though she knew the lie sounded feeble even to herself. His eyes, golden and sharp in the fading light, studied her. "It's not safe here," he said. There was no anger, only an intensity that made her knees weak. "You shouldn't wander near the forest alone." I wasn't scared," she whispered, though her pulse betrayed her. He stepped closer, and the air between them seemed to hum. Every instinct screamed that she should flee, yet she found herself rooted in place, drawn to him like a moth to a flame. Something about the way he moved, the subtle predatory grace, called to something deep inside her. "You feel it too, don't you?" he asked softly. His gaze pierced hers, searching, demanding acknowledgement. Emma swallowed hard. "Feel what?" "The pull," he said, a shadow of a smile ghosting his lips. "The connection, it's impossible to ignore." Her heart surged and faltered all at once. It wasn't just fascination. It was something ancient, something woven into the very fabric of who they were, something she couldn't control. A sudden rustle in the underbrush made her jump. Instinctively, he reached for her, his hand firm, protective. The touch sent a shiver racing down her spine, igniting a heat she didn't understand. "It's all right," he murmured, eyes scanning the shadows. "Nothing will touch you while I'm here." The forest seemed to sigh, and for a moment, the world narrowed to just the two of them. The scent of earth, the whisper of leaves, the undeniable pull between human and wolf, fate and choice. Emma's breath caught as he stepped back, the moment suspended in silence. She wanted to speak, to ask questions, but the connection lingered, leaving her heart hammering, mind spinning. She realized with a mix of awe and fear that her life had changed the instant he appeared. And somewhere, hidden in the dark, amber eyes watched her reaction. Patient, fierce, waiting for the inevitable. The moon hung low and golden over the forest, casting long, silver shadows that flickered like ghosts across the ground. Emma could hear the whisper of leaves, the distant call of an owl, and her own heartbeat, loud and uneven in the still night. She had been drawn here again, unable to resist the pull that seemed to tether her to the edge of the woods. He was there before her, leaning against a tree, eyes glinting in the moonlight like molten gold. For a moment neither spoke, the silence heavy, charged, almost unbearable. "You came," he said finally, his voice low, almost a growl that vibrated through her chest. I couldn't stop thinking about." She trailed off, words failing under the weight of his gaze. The warmth of his presence, the raw, magnetic energy radiating from him, made her chest tight. He stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from him, the subtle scent of wild pine and something more. Something untamed. "Do you feel it too?" he asked, voice softer now, almost vulnerable. "The pull between us, the connection." Emma's breath hitched. I don't understand it. It's like you're part of me I've never known," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper, a flicker of something, pain. Longing crossed his face. "I've tried to hide it, tried to keep it buried, but the wolf, he wants what he's been waiting for, what he's always known would come." His eyes softened as he reached out, fingertips brushing a loose strand of her hair from her face. The contact sent shivers cascading down her spine, her pulse pounded, and what if it's dangerous? He shook his head slowly, almost sadly. "Danger is part of it, you're part of it, but so is this." He gestured between them, the space charged with unspoken promises and raw energy. "I can't pretend anymore, Emma, not when every part of me, human and wolf, knows you belong to me." Her lips parted in shock, a mixture of fear and desire coursing through her. You mean that?" "I do," he said, his golden eyes capturing hers with unwavering intensity. "But I can't tell you everything. Not yet, not until you're ready to see the truth." A sudden rustle in the underbrush made her step back, and he immediately moved to shield her. His wolf instincts flared, protective and raw. "I won't let anything harm you," he murmured, teeth flashing slightly in the moonlight. The edge of danger only heightened the pull she felt toward him. Emma's chest tightened as the silence returned, heavy and intimate. Words had failed them, yet the confessions, unspoken and whispered under the silver glow, had changed everything. The night held them in a delicate, dangerous tension, a fragile promise of what was to come. And deep in the woods, the faintest growl, soft, almost tender, reminded her that his secret was never far away, waiting for the right moment to emerge. The full moon hung like a silver sentinel over the forest, illuminating every shadow, every secret. Emma had tried to convince herself she understood him, that the pull between them was theirs alone, but the woods had their own rules, and someone else had arrived. A rustle of leaves announced his presence before she saw him. Another man, taller, broader, with an alpha's confidence that radiated power like heat from a flame. The golden glow of his eyes gleamed with a challenge, not just to her, but to the man who had claimed her attention, and perhaps her heart. "You shouldn't be here," the newcomer said, voice rich and dangerous. "This territory isn't yours to roam." The first man stepped forward, his own stance rigid, predatory. "I didn't invite you," he replied, low and sharp. There was a warning in his tone, a ripple of energy that made Emma's skin prickle. His golden eyes flashed, wolf instincts barely restrained beneath human guise. Emma's stomach twisted. She had sensed tension in the air before, but now it was palpable, almost suffocating. She realized with a pang of fear that there were rules she didn't understand, laws and loyalties that existed in a world she was only beginning to glimpse. The other alpha's lips curled into a smirk. "I've heard whispers," he said, "about you, about her." He gestured toward Emma, his gaze sharp. "Seems the forest has chosen poorly, or perhaps wisely, depending on how you handle your desires." The first man's jaw tightened. "She's not yours to claim," he growled, a low rumble that resonated with something primal in the night air. His wolf instincts bristled, muscles coiling beneath his human skin. Emma's heart raced. She felt the pull of both men, the invisible tether that connected them in ways she didn't yet understand. Fear and attraction battled within her, leaving her breathless and disoriented. Suddenly, the forest seemed to shift, the wind carrying whispers of old rivalries, of packs and bloodlines, of battles fought long before she had existed. The newcomer's smirk faltered as the first man stepped closer, radiating controlled fury. Emma's voice trembled, "Stop, please," but neither moved. Tension crackled like lightning across the clearing. Her hands shook, unsure whether to flee or to stand and watch the inevitable clash. The air between the men was electric, charged with jealousy, dominance, and the unspoken danger that came with loving a wolf. Finally, with a warning growl, the first man's eyes softened just for a moment toward her. "Go home," he said, voice tight, protective. "Stay safe. I'll handle this." Emma nodded, though her heart thudded in her chest. She watched half frightened, half thrilled as the other alpha retreated into the shadows, leaving a lingering threat, and a promise that the forest and her heart would never be the same again. And as she walked home, the pull between them tightened, unrelenting, unyielding, hinting at the dangerous path that lay ahead. The days that followed were heavy with unspoken questions and cautious glances. Emma felt the weight of something she could not name pressing against her chest. Every step she took in town, every mundane moment, was now threaded with awareness of him, of the forest, of the pull that seemed to grow stronger with each heartbeat. She caught sight of him again, leaning against the edge of the forest, silhouette sharp against the morning light. His golden eyes found hers instantly, and the familiar tug of something impossible stirred deep inside her. "Emma," he called softly, his voice barely carrying over the distance. It was a warning and an invitation all at once. She hesitated, heart hammering. I should go," she said, though her legs refused to move. He stepped closer, a careful, measured approach, each movement deliberate. "You're part of this now," he said quietly, "whether you understand it or not, the pull between us. It doesn't care about safety or fear, it only knows truth." A sudden rustle in the trees made her jump. Branches snapped, and for a fleeting moment, a shadow moved faster than humanly possible. His protective instinct flared. In one fluid motion, he was in front of her, arms wide, stance low, muscles coiled like springs. Even in human form, he radiated power, raw and undeniable. Emma's pulse raced. I didn't mean to. You're not in danger," he said, but the wolf in him growled low, and the warning vibrated through the air, a sound that was felt more than heard. Her heart fluttered wildly, a mix of fear, excitement, and longing. The tension between them was more than attraction. It was inevitability, ancient and insistent. Every word he spoke, every glance, every subtle movement, pulled her closer into a world she could neither resist nor fully comprehend. "Why me?" she asked, voice trembling. Why this connection? His gaze softened, but the edges of it remained sharp. Because you're part of something I can't ignore, he admitted. Something destined. Emma shivered, and for a moment the forest fell silent, the wind pausing as if holding its breath. The pull between them was tangible, almost suffocating, yet irresistible. Her mind screamed caution, but her heart knew that the path she was on was no longer hers to choose alone. And somewhere deep in the shadows, the faintest glimmer of golden eyes followed them, a reminder that the wolf's secret, and the danger it carried, was never far behind. The night had grown unnervingly still, the forest holding its breath as if anticipating what was to come. Emma had been walking along the path near the edge of the woods when the distant growl reached her ears, a sound that was both terrifying and familiar. Her pulse raced, and instinctively, she knew something was about to change. He appeared from the shadows, eyes glowing gold, every movement precise, every breath measured. The pull between them was undeniable now, magnetic and dangerous, as though the forest itself was urging her closer. Before she could speak, a sudden attack came. Figures emerging from the darkness, cloaked in aggression. Wolves, humans, she couldn't tell, only that danger was closing in fast. In an instant, he shifted. The air seemed to ripple, his human form stretching, elongating, fur sprouting along his spine, golden eyes flaring brighter. The man she had known, the calm, distant stranger, was gone. In his place, a wolf, massive and powerful, loomed, muscles coiled with lethal grace, every movement a promise of unstoppable force. Emma stumbled back, heart hammering. Her words failed her. He froze for a heartbeat, eyes softening as they met hers, even as his claws scraped the forest floor. Yes, he said, voice low, human words vibrating through his massive chest. I'm what I've been hiding, what I've been trying to protect you from. The attackers hesitated at the sight of him, fear evident even in the shadows. The wolf growl that rolled from him was more than sound. It was command, dominance, raw and unstoppable. In one fluid motion, he defended her, moving with a speed and strength that made the ground tremble. Emma's breath caught in her throat as she watched him. Her heart pounded, a mix of awe, fear, and something deeper. Desire she couldn't deny. The man she had been drawn to, humiliated by, fascinated by, was now laid bare in his most primal form. Emma, he murmured, stepping closer despite his wolf shape. I've waited too long to hide from you, from this. You needed to see me to understand who I truly am. Her gaze met his golden eyes, and she felt the pull stronger than ever. It was no longer curiosity or even fear. It was recognition, something ancient, predestined, a bond that transcended human understanding. The attackers fled, sensing they could not win. He returned to her side, shifting back to human form, sweat glistening on his skin, eyes still blazing with gold flecks. He reached out, brushing a trembling strand of hair from her face. You're part of this, he whispered, voice soft but intense. And now you know there's no turning back. Emma's chest heaved, emotions colliding. Fear, awe, desire, longing. The pull, undeniable and relentless, wrapped around her like the forest itself. She realized in that moment that everything had changed. Her life, her choices, her heart, all of it now belonged to the wolf standing before her, no longer hidden, no longer restrained. And somewhere, deep in the woods, the moon shone brighter, as if acknowledging the truth that had finally emerged. His secret was no longer his alone, and neither was she. The forest was silent now, save for the soft rustle of leaves underfoot and the distant cry of an owl. Emma stood close to him, heart pounding, aware of the subtle tension that radiated from his presence. He was no longer just a man. He was a wolf, a force of nature, and yet he had chosen to stay near her to protect her. She swallowed hard, her emotions a tangle of fear, awe, and longing. Why am I drawn to you like this? She whispered, voice trembling. He studied her, golden eyes softening, yet still fierce. Because we're connected, he said quietly, you and I. It's more than chance. Fate doesn't care about laws, about rules, about danger. It only knows truth. Emma's fingers trembled as she reached for his hand, hesitating just above the warmth of his skin. The pull between them was undeniable, magnetic, a force that seemed older than the forest itself. But it's forbidden, she said, fear lacing her tone, pack laws, danger, you could lose everything. He smiled faintly, a shadow of amusement and something tender flickering in his gaze. I've lost everything before, he murmured, and I will protect you, even if it means defying the entire world. Her breath hitched. She had never felt so alive, so terrified, so utterly seen in her life. The wind carried the scent of pine and something wilder, a heady mix that made her heart flutter. Every instinct screamed to run, yet every heartbeat tethered her to him. Suddenly, he stepped closer, hand brushing against hers. The contact sent shivers down her spine, igniting a fire that she could not quell. I know you feel it too, he said softly, the bond. It doesn't care if we fight it, if we deny it. It exists between us, always. Emma's lips parted, her voice barely audible. I feel it, but I'm scared. I know, he whispered, thumb brushing her cheek, and that's okay. You don't have to understand it all yet. You just have to trust me. She closed her eyes, allowing herself to be pulled into the warmth, the strength, the undeniable truth of his presence. Fear and desire mingled, twisting into something raw and exquisite. The forest seemed to lean in, the moonlight bathing them in silver as if giving silent approval to what was unfolding. I trust you, she finally said, voice trembling, yet resolute. He cupped her face, golden eyes piercing hers, and in that instant, everything shifted. The bond, unspoken and ancient, pulsed between them. It was electric, undeniable, dangerous, and beautiful. The air trembled with the intensity of their connection, and for the first time, Emma understood. Whatever lay ahead, jealous rivals, pack politics, or the dangers of the forest, they were bound. Fate had chosen them, and there was no escaping the gravity of what they now shared. And somewhere deep in the woods, hidden eyes watched, aware that this bond, forbidden as it was, could change everything. The morning was deceptively calm, sunlight spilling across the town square in warm, golden streams. But beneath the serenity, tension twisted like a blade in Emma's chest. She had trusted him, trusted the pull, the bond, the promises whispered under the moonlight, and now everything felt fractured. It had started with a rumor, faint at first, whispered by a pack member she barely knew. He's hiding something. The voice had said, eyes darting nervously, not just his wolf. There's someone else, someone he's involved with. Emma's world spun. Doubt and fear clashed violently with the bond that tethered her to him. Could it be true? Could he have betrayed her, even as their connection pulsed like a living thing between them? She found him later at the forest edge, gaze distant, jaw tight. We need to talk, she said, trying to steady her voice. He turned slowly, golden eyes flashing, a mixture of pain and frustration in their depths. Emma, he began, but she cut him off, words trembling yet sharp. Tell me it's not true. Tell me I'm imagining this. His shoulders slumped slightly, the human mask slipping for a fraction of a second. I swear you're the only one, but there are things you don't know, things I've tried to protect you from. Her stomach twisted, fear and longing coiling together. Protect me by lying to me. Yes, he admitted, voice low and strained. I kept secrets because the truth would have hurt you. I didn't want you to be caught in the crossfire of pack politics, rival alphas, of danger you couldn't possibly understand yet. Emma felt the bond between them tug violently, demanding she stay, demanding she believe, yet her heart screamed with betrayal. I trusted you, she whispered, tears stinging her eyes, and now, I don't know if I can. He stepped closer, eyes pleading, hands trembling as they hovered near hers. You have to, he said softly, because even with the secrets, even with the danger, my wolf chose you, always, and so did I. Her chest ached, torn between fear, anger, and the undeniable pull that still held her to him. The forest around them seemed to pulse, mirroring the turmoil inside her. Suddenly, movement from the shadows, a rival, unseen until now, reminded her that his life, their lives, were entwined with threats she had barely begun to grasp. The danger was real. Betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was life. threatening. Emma's resolve wavered, yet she could not turn away. The bond, forbidden and electric, hummed insistently, reminding her that despite doubts and pain, some connections were unbreakable. And as the rival retreated, sensing they were too late, she realized the truth. Trust could be shattered, hearts could ache, but destiny, and the pull between human and wolf would always find a way to reclaim them. The night had grown heavy, dense with tension, as if the forest itself braced for what was coming. Emma followed cautiously, heart hammering in her chest as he led her to a clearing bathed in moonlight. The pack was already gathered, a circle of powerful figures whose presence radiated authority and danger. "Stay close," he murmured, hand brushing against hers, grounding her. His golden eyes scanned the assembly, muscles taut, wolf instincts flickering beneath human skin. The leader of the rival faction stepped forward, eyes cold, teeth clenched. "You've overstepped," he said, voice sharp, carrying over the clearing. "This territory, these rules, they are mine to enforce." The alpha before her straightened, every movement controlled, precise. "No," he growled, low and commanding, the sound vibrating through the clearing. "She is not yours. You will respect that, or face the consequences." Emma's pulse raced, fear and awe mingling as the two wolves, human in form but alpha in presence, circled each other. Sparks of tension crackled in the moonlit air, invisible yet palpable, as if the night itself held its breath. "Do you hear me?" he demanded, eyes flashing gold. "She is under my protection, and no rival, no pack will claim her." The rival snarled, stepping forward, claws flexing, muscles coiling. For a heartbeat, time seemed suspended, the forest silent save for the low growl of predatory tension. Then, like a storm breaking, the confrontation erupted, movement blurred, fast, sharp, lethal. The alpha's wolf instincts surged, his form shifting almost imperceptibly, power radiating as he defended the one he had chosen. Emma watched, heart in her throat, as the rival hesitated, realizing the magnitude of the force arrayed against him. Her fear collided with awe, desire intertwining with relief as she saw the man she had come to trust, human and wolf combined, protecting her without hesitation, without fear. He turned briefly, eyes locking onto hers, golden and fierce. "Stay behind me," he instructed, voice low but insistent. "No harm will come to you." The rival backed down, recognizing the authority of the alpha who had claimed both territory and bond. The pack murmured among themselves, tension easing slightly as dominance was asserted. But the air remained charged, electric, a reminder that danger was never far and that love and loyalty came with risk. Emma exhaled, chest tight, emotions a whirlwind. She realized with clarity and awe that loving a wolf was not just perilous, it was extraordinary. The bond, the pull, the fierce protection, they were real, unstoppable, and unbreakable, and as the forest settled into a fragile calm, golden eyes found hers once more. In that gaze, she understood. This confrontation was only the beginning, but together they could face whatever lay ahead. The forest was quiet now, the echoes of confrontation lingering only in Emma's memory. Moonlight spilled through the trees, painting the clearing in silver, soft and forgiving. She stood beside him, heart still racing, emotions tangled between relief, awe, and something deeper, something that could no longer be denied. He reached for her hand, fingers warm, strong, grounding her. "Emma," he murmured, voice low, intimate, "we've faced danger, rivals, doubts, and still here we are." Her gaze met his golden eyes softening as they held hers, unflinching. I was scared," she admitted, voice trembling. "Scared of the pull, of the wolf, of everything I couldn't understand. But I can't deny it anymore." He cupped her face, thumb brushing against her cheek, and the air around them seemed to pulse with unspoken promises. "You don't have to deny it. You never did. Fate chose you, and so did I. Our bond, it's unbreakable." Emma's breath caught, tears pricking the corners of her eyes. She had resisted, questioned, feared the unknown. But now, standing in the silver glow of the forest, she felt the weight of destiny settle comfortably into her chest. It was terrifying, yes, but it was also right. "I trust you," she whispered, voice stronger this time, completely. He smiled, a mix of relief, love, and something feral barely contained. "Then there's nothing left to fear," he said softly. His golden eyes shimmered with emotion, fierce yet tender, human and wolf intertwined. The wind shifted, rustling the leaves above, and for a moment it felt as if the forest itself was acknowledging their union, the inevitability of their bond. Every instinct inside her told her that she belonged here, with him, in this dangerous, intoxicating, extraordinary world. He stepped closer, forehead resting against hers, eyes closed, and she mirrored him, closing her own, letting the pull, the bond, the inevitable connection wash over her. The tension of fear, doubt, and danger eased, replaced by trust, love, and acceptance. The wolf within him sighed almost audibly, a low rumble that resonated deep in her chest. Emma felt it as much as she heard it, a reassurance that she was safe, chosen, and needed. The trials, the secrets, the betrayals, they were behind them. What lay ahead was unknown, but for the first time she was unafraid. And as the moonlight bathed them in silver glow, golden eyes and human heart intertwined, Emma realized that some destinies could not be escaped. They could only be embraced. The forest breathed around them, leaves shimmering silver under the full moon, a gentle wind carrying the scent of pine and earth. Emma stood close to him, hand in hand, heart still racing but calm in a way it had never been before. The danger, the tension, the secrets, all of it had led to this quiet, luminous moment. He turned to her, golden eyes softened by moonlight, a tender smile brushing his lips. "We made it," he whispered, voice low, intimate. "The threats, the rivals, they can't touch what we have. Nothing can." Emma's chest swelled with emotion, warmth pooling in her veins. "It feels surreal," she admitted, voice trembling, "to finally be here, knowing we've survived everything together." He cupped her face, thumb brushing along her cheek, and she leaned into the touch, feeling the bond pulse between them, strong, undeniable, eternal. The wolf within him was calm now, tempered by the human connection they shared, a perfect balance of wildness and tenderness. "I've waited my entire life for this," he murmured, forehead resting against hers. "For you, for us." Emma's lips curved into a soft smile, eyes glistening. "And I never thought I could feel this way, complete, safe, wanted, but with you, it's like I finally belong." The forest seemed to sigh around them, a gentle rustle of leaves, a shimmer of moonlight casting silver across their entwined hands. Even the distant stars appeared to lean closer, witnessing the moment, as if the world itself acknowledged their love. He lowered his lips to hers, slow and deliberate, and Emma responded, heart and soul opening to the connection they had fought to claim. Every doubt, every fear melted away in the warmth of the kiss, leaving only certainty, trust, and an overwhelming sense of belonging. When they finally parted, golden eyes met hers, unspoken promises shimmering between them. "This is just the beginning," he whispered. "There will be challenges, yes, but together we are unstoppable." Emma rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady thrum of his heart, matching her own. The pull, once a dangerous force, now felt like home, safe, right, and as the moonlight bathed them in silver, the forest around them whispered of new beginnings. For the alpha and his mate, for the human and the wolf, life would never be ordinary, but it would always be theirs, together. The night stretched on, serene and infinite, and in that quiet, magical space, Emma realized that some bonds are written in the stars, unbreakable, eternal, and beautiful beyond measure.